I don't want a nickel, I just want to ride this motorcycle. Welcome back to the CSC Garage as we continue our build of the ultimate TT250 Enduro. As you recall from a previous episode, we installed an aftermarket chain and sprocket on this machine. While we had the rear wheel off, we took the opportunity to install a more aggressive knobby tire on the rear. Today we're going to be installing a knobby tire on the front, and I wanted to take the opportunity to show you how you can remove and reinstall your front wheel. So let's get started.
Optimus fuel bottle, strong yet surprisingly light, now with child safe cap.
Now to remove the front wheel and then to reinstall it, we're only going to need a few different tools. I am going to use a little bit of grease, an all-purpose grease, some blue Loctite, 15mm wrench, Phillips screwdriver, 12mm socket, and a 17mm socket. Let's get on. First thing I want to do is get this caliper out of the way, so I'll use that 12mm socket. And I can just gently let that hang. Next, I'm going to take my 17mm socket and remove the axle nut. Now I can put my attention on the right side of the bike. I'm going to remove the front fork guard just so I have easier access to the speedo drive and can work with it on the reinstall a little bit easier. So I'm going to take my Phillips screwdriver, remove that fork guard. Okay, now we have the front wheel free. I'm going to jack it up just enough to take some tension off of that axle so I can pull the axle out smoothly, and then I'll be ready to remove the wheel from the motorcycle. And we're out. Now we're ready to reinstall this wheel. We've got our new tire on there. I'm going to make sure I put the spacer back on the brake side. On the non-brake side, that's where your speedo drive is. And I'm going to put a little extra grease. This is a new motorcycle, so it's pretty lubricated, but I'm going to add a little bit more while I have it off. Essentially, you have this piece of polymer plastic, the sensor spinning around the pickup. That's how it calculates your speed, sending an electric signal. What I want to do when I reinstall it, I've got to make sure that these little tabs go into the wheel, just like that. Take some all-purpose grease. I can grease that sensor. I can grease inside the pickup. One other thing I want to do when I reinstall the speedo, I want to make sure that the wire is going to go in the front. It's not behind, it's not wrapped around the fork leg so it could catch on the tire. But make sure it follows the guide just like that. I'm going to hold some tension on that as I slide it in place. One other thing you want to make sure on the speedo drive, when you reinstall it, there's a groove on the top of the pickup and it needs to be surrounding this little tab on the lower fork. This is what keeps it in place. Go ahead and put that axle nut back on. It's the 17 millimeter. I'm going to use the 15 millimeter to hold the back side of the axle. Torque that axle somewhere between 40 and 45 foot-pounds. Now I'm ready to reinstall my brake caliper, but I want to make sure I use some blue Loctite on those brake caliper mounting bolts. I'm going to use the 12 millimeter socket. $25 to $30 foot-pounds right there. And finally, I'll reinstall my right front fork guard. Now, as I do that, there's a little channel here that will hold the wire. I'm gonna have the wire in between the two holes as it feeds up. That'll keep things all away from the tire once it's in motion. Kind of slide it over. I can look down, kind of double check. Now I'm ready to reinstall the Phillips screws. Thanks for joining us here once again at the CSC Garage as we continue the ultimate TT250 Enduro build. I had fun today showing you how to remove and reinstall your front wheel. We were able to put on a more aggressive knobby tire to match the rear. Any of these stock parts or aftermarket parts that you see can be purchased through our website, cscmotorcycles.com. Be sure to come back and check out the other upgrades we're going to do on this machine. But until then, most importantly, enjoy the ride.